Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. My name is Cameron. I'm the managing partner here at Monkey Pod. And on behalf of my colleagues at Monkey Pod, Jade, Greg, and all of our members, I want to welcome you to today's webinar. I'll be your host for the duration of this. I'll have the honor of bringing up our guest and also managing the chat, managing questions, and sharing updates with you as we get through the next hour of this event together. Today, we are going to be talking all about email list management and also getting to look at a new or new-ish product out in the world called List Defender with List Defender's founder or co-creator, Mr. Dave Lee. So I'm going to bring Dave up and then do a little bit more introducing. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Cameron.
Welcome to Monkey Pod Universe. As I said, we're going to talk all about email list management, but I just want to frame this up by talking about why I wanted to invite Dave in the first place to do this kind of strategy and showcase session. The first is that email list management is important, right? That as email marketing people or as course creators or as small business owners, as people who know that our lists are our assets, just managing it proactively and keeping it in good health is really, really important. The second reason I wanted to invite Dave specifically is that I know that a lot of members of the Monkey Pod community are already fans and users of PlusThis. I think that we have an enormous percentage of our membership uses the PlusThis product. And while the List Defender product is not PlusThis, Dave is one of the co-creators of PlusThis and one of the co-creators of List Defender. So I think kind of bringing that connection together kind of mentally for people might be really valuable. And then I know List Defender is not brand new. It certainly has some traction. I know some people who are using it, but in the scope of software tools out there in the world, it's a relatively new product. So I think it'd be cool to be able to bring that to people's attention. So that's kind of what my setup, my intention was for inviting you, Dave, here today. So the way the run of the show is going to work here, we're going to spend some time just talking about strategically why this is important. I'm going to interview a little bit about email marketing and email list management. I'm then going to give you the opportunity to take a look at List Defender. I installed it on the Monkey Pod list probably about a month and a half ago, and it's been running, doing things. It's been tagging my contacts as red, yellow, green. I can't think of a better way to understand what it's doing than have you just tell us and show us what it's doing. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with some housekeeping, including we have another one of these events planned for next month. So I'd love to be able to tell everybody about it. So, okay, that's enough of me. I want to get started. So as we get started, Dave, can you just tell us about yourself in general, and then also about your relationship with PlusThis, Tag Genie, 6 Division, Slottable,
Sure,
List Defender,
yeah,
whatever other business you've decided to start. Can you just give us your introduction to start?
My desire is to bring value and some tools and things that are going to be very helpful. That's what I love doing. I got started in tech way back in the 1900s, fell in love with the internet before it was even the internet. I was one of the first paying members of Prodigy. That predates AOL. So I've been online since the late 80s and just fell in love with it and have been in tech and software and just love how tools can be created that make entrepreneurs more efficient, more effective. And that's really what I've done over the past probably 3 decades is be involved in businesses and create businesses and tools and things that help entrepreneurs be more efficient, be more effective, save time, double, triple, quadruple revenue, whatever those desires are, make life easier. That's what I'm all about. And so all the businesses that I've been involved in live in that world of making life better, more efficient, more productive, for entrepreneurs. For a while there, had a stint helping create and build Infusionsoft. I joined as the first executive. I think I was employee number 9 back I started consulting Infusionsoft back in 2003, 2004, joined full-time in 2005 and ran marketing sales for almost 6 years and then exited and realized, hey, I'm really good at building things, building businesses. I should probably do this on my own or for myself, and joined forces with with Brad Martineau and also our technical co-founder, Todd Stoker. And we actually started Sixth Division, which was created to be a consulting coaching company around helping businesses get organized and get automated. And we would use, tech tools to help with the process and everything. And that business is still running today. And we've been doing it it's probably been at least 13 years now. When we started Sixth Division, we had no intention of building a software company. It was a consulting coaching company. And it actually quickly became, or we started to produce tools and things that would help our clients get the most out of marketing automation, marketing sales, and process automation, and built things that at the time Keap and Fusionsoft, now Thrive, couldn't do, or there were limitations. And that turned into PlusThis, which is now a library of over 100 tools that plug into Keap, Go High Level, ActiveCampaign, Ontraport, HubSpot, and others. And that business has been running. And so the lesson was sometimes the secondary business or the secondary idea, the spinoff, is even more profitable than your main thing.
Dave, I was about to ask before you disclosed it. I was about to say, I've not seen your corporation's income statement, so I couldn't guess. But if I had to guess, I would have thought that PlusThis would be kind of the bigger and more scalable business, right? Developers creating products rather than like coaches constantly, doing repeat work. And I can almost imagine the story where, like if Sixth Division was trying to build something so that people could check into events, you're like, well, I guess we better build a widget to make it easier to check into events. Or like if PlusThis had clients who were, large scale webinar hosts and they needed a Zoom plugin, you're like, well, I guess if we're building a Zoom plugin, we may as well market a Zoom plugin, right? Like I can almost see how that plays out, where it's like the agency necessity is what drives like if we're building it for us, we may as well, turn it into a product innovation.
Yeah. What played out is the coaching consulting business actually became the R&D center of our software business. And so things like that would come up all the time. Back in the day, we would have clients come out and they're like, hey, I have this use case. I have this thing. I want to be able to send contacts down different paths based on how much of a video that they've watched. We're like, well, that doesn't exist, but I think we could build that. And so things like that would come up all the time, deep webinar connections and, Facebook integrations, things like that marketers need. We would build, and that has continued. Some things we just add to the library of PlusThis, and other things are more standalone, like Tag Genie, where we're helping get people organized with all their tags because tags become a mess in their CRM, or Slottable event management. Yeah.
I wanted to ask about that, and maybe that can help us to transition into the list defender piece. Is that there was a PlusThis tool. It's not, I don't think, anywhere near the oldest of PlusThis tools, but there was a PlusThis tool that kind of existed in an in-between time that was about list hygiene or list management or list tagging, right? It was kind of like, I guess, the precursor or like the ultralight version of what eventually became List Defender. So if the journey is that we have an agency that has software needs, and therefore we have a software company that can, leverage what the demands are as the research development of Sixth Division turns into, productized items inside of PlusThis. And then now, was it 2024? That you launched List Defender.
Yes, we started
so how
beta.
does that now come together? And then I've got some questions for you about email list management, and then we'll come back to List Defender near the end of the session.
Yeah, much like Tag Genie, like we had a tagging tool that was kind of a secret tool that only Sixth Division clients could use, but then it kind of got out. But that became a standalone product. And in PlusThis, there are things like engagement management and tracking, and there's some validation tools. But we saw a very clear need for a very robust system to be able to help marketers with list management and list cleaning and form protection. And there's a whole story behind it. But yeah, that was, that caused us to recognize the need And then about middle of last year, we created a beta program for List Defender. And I personally would walk every client through and get their feedback and give that to Todd and the dev team. And they would make tweaks and adjustments and make it easier and better. And eventually we just earlier this year, we took it out of beta and moved to production, and now it's fully available.
In a few minutes, kind of in the the last third or last quarter of the section, I want to see some of the List Defender like secret sauce. I want to see the stuff that, why and how are people being tagged in this way? Why did you make certain? Maybe you can explain to us why you made certain decisions in like the setup wizard. To go from more novice to more demanding users, those types of things. I want to transition now to maybe not just talking about List Defender, but just about email marketing or email fulfillment of products or email sales processes, these types of things, right? The way email has become such an important part of our business, not just in mass marketing, but also things like, hey, if you're a course creator and somebody's getting their very first ever password to their website, it's an important part of fulfillment as well, right? Like email is a super important part of our business. And we trust email to do a lot of stuff for us. We trust it to send our emails, send our invoices. We just trust it to do so many things. So let's just talk about email strategy in general, and then we'll turn back to the kind of List Defender piece in a minute. So could you just explain why list management is critical for a list owner? Like why is it even a thing that needs to occupy the brain power of a marketer or an operations leader or a business owner?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Any good marketer, email marketer is really in the business of building a list. So they're doing demand generation, lead generation. We're spending money. We're doing social and video and all in an effort to drive some type of a connection. And when appropriate, that connection turns into an opt-in, and that opt-in is now in my list. And that allows me to have a very targeted audience. The more corralled and targeted we can get our audience, the more effective our marketing. So we do a lot of, shotgun or social, video, paid, all this stuff to attract the eyeballs. But once we get their email, now we know exactly who we are talking to and can almost for free communicate with them. And I think that's part of the problem is email has been relatively free. And because of that, we treat it kind of like, the stepchild that doesn't get any attention and isn't maintained and isn't coddled. And that has turned into a problem. And like, it's critical. It's critical because what's happening now is email, not only are the email senders, like whoever's sending your email, whether it's a membership platform or a CRM or an email marketing tool, whatever it is, those senders are clamping down and continue to clamp down on regulations and what's accepted and what's not. And they're actually helping facilitate, making sure that your domain is set up properly. Like as you get set up on GHL or Keap or something like that, they kind of walk you through to make sure some of that plumbing is done. But all of the rest is on us as marketers. And the truth is we have not cared up until now. And it's gotten so bad, as people know, those that are heavy into email marketing, now we've got the email providers, Gmail, AOL, MSN, all the big providers are clamping down further and further. And they're watching the behavior of each of us email marketers as we're sending from whatever platform it is. And so if we send the same stuff to the entire list over and over and we get the same bounces and the same dead responses, it's not just our email provider, like our email sender that's watching. It's now Gmail and AOL and MSN and all of those. And they're saying, oh, this marketer over here, nobody's opening their stuff. Nobody's clicking. Nobody's engaging. So we're going to throttle them. We're going to block them. We're not going to deliver. And so if we're not careful, we are not only facing the battle of making sure that we're sending properly, but is the stuff that we're sending, are we training Gmail to block us? And in many cases we are. And so what we end up with is terrible deliverability. That is the end result, is horrible deliverability. And everybody gets frustrated and mad at the senders, like the Keaps and the GHLs and the whatevers. But like, instead of pointing the finger, you need to point the finger right at yourself. Like, there's a lot that you can and should be doing, and it's only going to get tighter as time goes on. Like, if you're not actively managing your email list and that relationship, then like you have some work to catch up and to stay on top of, because it's only going to get tighter and harder.
Absolutely. I have at least two pieces of that I want to unpack with you. One of the things that you said that, your email sending platform is going to help you, but they're also, they have an interest in doing that because they don't have perhaps like a unique IP address for every single sender on their platform, or a unique domain for every single sender.
Right.
So like when you think about the number of stakeholders involved in all of these relationships, right? The stakeholder could be the recipient who values your membership platform and needs that update and access, or it could be the recipient who bought something from you 2.5 years ago and is like, why? Like, I bought one ticket to a sporting event 2.5 years ago when I was a tourist, and now I live in Ontario, Canada. I visit your neighborhood in Arizona frequently, and the number of restaurant mailing lists I'm on in Arizona because of my once a year, twice a year travels to Arizona is wild, right?
Yeah. So
there's stakeholders of the recipients, there's stakeholders of the mailbox provider, right? Gmail, Office 365, and others. Where, their stakeholder is you and their recipient, right? Is the recipient having a good, clean inbox experience that they like, right? The stakeholder of the marketing partner who's been hired to send these broadcasts and generate revenue, the stakeholder of, like we said, the Keaps, the MailChimps, the high levels, and I think what's really fascinating about that particular stakeholder is that you're paying them to send emails.
Yes.
So you'd think that they're going to want nothing but to make it easy for you to send emails, but they're also being paid by 10,000 or 100,000 other people to send emails, and they're not going to burn their reputation just for you, right? You're an important stakeholder until you make stuff bad for the whole, and then you're not an important stakeholder anymore, right? So I think that's when you talked about those, I couldn't help but try to draw a little map in my head of all of the stakeholders who are involved in emails, and that each of those stakeholders have different things that they need to achieve, whether it's a clean inbox or more revenue for the seller, or stifling the bad senders so that they can focus on the best senders.
Right.
And there's another piece of what you were talking about that I want to unpack as well. But before I do that, what is the state of bad senders in this world right now? There's more email I think 15 years ago, you had Constant Contact and MailChimp, and the big boys had Keap and stuff like that. But like now there's dozens and dozens and dozens. And AI, copy generation, is it worse now or better now in terms of stakeholders and bad actors?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would have everybody reflect for just a moment on the state of their own inbox. Has it grown over the past year, or has it shrunk? Like, I probably spend at least a half hour a week. If I tallied up all of the quick opt-outs I do, like it seems like my email addresses are exponentially being added to lists. And so, I think it's gotten much more crowded. I think there are more platforms that are sending emails. I think we're using email more and more inside the entire client journey, not just up front, near top of funnel at lead capture and autoresponders. We're using it throughout the entire sales process, the marketing process, and the fulfillment process. Like, think of times where you've got, some content that you're releasing in a membership system, and it unlocks the next level. Email goes out. Like, there's email happening everywhere throughout the client journey. And that's just us. Like our own businesses, multiply that by all the other businesses that are working with your clients and customers and the restaurants and the everything. And then you add in the AI bots and the spammers and everything. It just goes to show how big of a task this is to make sure that we are legitimate senders. And even then, we're still on shared IPs most of the time by our sender. And so if we've got a goofball next to us that's sending from the same IP and they get in trouble, that tarnishes the IP address and that impacts us as well.
Yeah. And can you imagine being on the same IP for your email distribution system that gives you a black mark on your file, but you're using a perfectly legitimate help desk system on the same sender domain and things like that, right? And a perfectly legitimate membership site and those types of things. It's chaotic and almost a little bit stressful to think about that. I know that when I send a broadcast through, to our MonkeyPod list or to one of our agency client lists or things like that, I get a little obsessive about the statistics and things like that. And I have to put myself in the perspective of that, that Thursday morning email box user who, just got a lot. And it's like, not every email is going to hit every time. It might be some portion of the emails that go out to those folks who, we have a mobile studio for MonkeyPod. It's lighting kits and things like that we can build out and, good looking Airbnbs and mobile studios. And I bought a really great like industrial road case for it. They sell cases for firearms and they sell cases for cameras. And I'm like, I'm not well segmented in their list. Every week I'm getting these, these gun case emails. And I'm like, why do you not have a preference center where I can say I want the camera equipment road cases instead? But if the email marketer there was, refreshing their stats and they're like, why does this dude not want my, it's not every email has to hit. It's the email that sells the product I'm most interested in or provides the education I'm most interested in that needs to hit.
Let me comment on that, Cameron, because that's a big core issue is we have been trained as marketers to bring in as many leads as possible and treat almost all the leads the same. Like, no, we're just going to keep educating and assuming that they're reading our stuff and that they're a right fit. And the truth is, like, we need to stop emailing our lists. We need to stop emailing the entire list and start segmenting. And as I work with clients, we quickly unpack and uncover that, a list that is 50,000 strong is actually only 10,000 that are engaging or like,
and that's beautiful. If you've got 10,000 people who are, that's actually, maybe some things that we need to think of as a good thing or a bad thing. So I guess that leads to a question extending on this question of why is list management critical? We might have to get down to the core of like literally what list management is, because it would lead to the question of, is that 50,000 list where 20% are engaged? Well, there's two things you could do. You could keep growing the list and keep striving for that 20% engagement, but just facetiously or hypothetically, what would happen if you deleted 25% of that list or 50% of that list? Well, it's just math, right? So as we kind of talk about like literally what list management or list hygiene is, whether it's worth it to have 20% or 10%, what should you do with the other 80 or 90%? I just want to, complete a thought from the first bit of what you're talking about, which was that Gmail and Office 365 and Outlook.com, they're passing judgment, right? And I kind of think of it like my bank, right? My bank submits some information to the credit bureau, but it also keeps probably 4 or 5 times more information inside of its own walls for its own benefit, right? So like, sure, it's putting out some public data about me, but it's also keeping an enormous amount of internal data about me. I think that's kind of a fascinating thing is that, hey, we might not be on a public blacklist, but that provider might still have formed an opinion about my content or my behaviors or the behaviors of, hey, does that, remember these companies, Microsoft, Google, etc. They own the AI verse, right? They own all the computing power in the world. So presumably we might not know how, but they're applying that computing power to us, on us, and passing judgment. So this next question is like all of that bundled together, the opinions being formed by providers, that is it worth having people on your list who are not engaging? And then with all of that, literally what is list hygiene or list management? Can you just that universe and then boil that down to like literally what is hygiene management or list management?
There are things that you should be doing with your, we'll call them a sender, to make sure that your name server is set up properly, your DKIM and DMARC and SPF records and things like that. There's some plumbing that has to be done and should be reviewed like fairly often to make sure that, you know, the Gmails and the whatever of the world are able to validate you as a real sender. I think that should be at least semi top of mind to make sure that the plumbing is in place so that when you do send, that everything checks out. Like that's critical. And we've got a course that we're coming out with in the next couple of weeks that if people are not sure about all that world, we make it very simple and can give you free resources to help you make sure that you've got that dialed in. Then it comes down to your own behavior. And over the years, we've become much more aware of what a healthy email list looks like. And it doesn't help that engagement tracking is in the state that it's in. Like the providers, they are looking at opens and clicks, which are becoming more and more unreliable, but it's all we got. It's all we got right now in terms of engagement. We've also got a bunch of unknown issues going on where many are not aware that they have been or are being attacked by bots and these fake opt-ins to their list. And so we end up with a bunch of garbage on our list. And if we're not actively reviewing and seeing those leads come in and actually looking at the name and email and the behavior, like, are these coming in quickly? And I didn't even do an event or a big promo or anything, or is the first name cryptic looking and it looks like a real email? Like that's a big issue, regardless of list size. That's happening. And so it's up to us as the senders, as the business owner or the marketers or the ops person to really dive into your email list and review it often to make sure that you've got a good like core to send to. And then we can look at engagement, some other things and email behavior. And I'm not going to get into like copywriting and that kind of thing and the content, the value of what you're sending. I'm counting on you guys to handle that, like listeners to handle that. But there's definitely this world of your email list review. Like how often do you actually review your email list to see how legitimate it is? How many bounces, how many opt-outs? Like, are you paying for 100,000 contacts in your email marketing system and 50,000 have opted out, like, and are getting nothing from you? Like, are you paying for that? Can you delete those and get more efficient and get better stats because you have a clearer insight into what your list actually is? There's a bunch of manual work that people can do to check for fakes and for, bounces and clean that out. Domain roles, stuff like that. But it's a pain. They've got that last Friday of the month item in their calendar that doesn't quite make the cut. So I've heard you talk about kind of the authentication piece, like making sure that, the providers believe that you're a legitimate sender, that, the business you're from is the business that's sending these things. There's like the form protection element of like, there's no glory. Well, one, there's no glory in having 20% of your database filled with fake bots. No.
And there's also a lot of risk to sending to those fake bots, especially if they're, email addresses that are going to lead to complaints and things like that in time. And then there's like the size of the list and in my gun versus camera case example, maybe some intelligence about like, I have never, ever, ever engaged in in one of those, but I actually have used a promo code that has purchased I took 10% off my first order of my first camera case, right?
Yeah.
And kind of segmenting more kind of intelligently that way. So you can apply manual processes to, being intentional about your list, and you can you can apply automated processes to making certain decisions. And we'll explore those a bit more in a minute here. I will say as a little asterisk, like most things in the world of automation, and MonkeyPod's all about DIYers, right? We've got people with small lists and big lists inside of the MonkeyPod community. And a lot of people are kind of DIYing and getting through these things kind of by themselves. So there's like a good step, right? Starting to do this work is a good step. And I've also noticed that some of the pros in our community are doing some pretty wild things. Like, maybe they're not even that wild, but things like, if somebody is not engaged in a certain period of time and the wisdom says, so let's mark them as unengaged. Well, maybe you put a decision diamond or an if-then statement, depending on which platform you're on, right in front of that to determine whether or not they have a customer tag first.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Is this a $0 person who hasn't opened anything in 60 days? Or is this a greater than $0 person who hasn't opened anything in 60 days? And you think, oh, that person is supposed to be learning with us right now.
And engaging.
We might actually be not wanting to automatically opt them out. We might actually be needing to load up a task to go to a different email domain and say, hey, are you getting value? Are you getting these emails? Did you get your login? What's going on? And like that, what that 60 days or 90 days of not engaging means could be extremely different from that like person who opted in maybe to this webinar, spent $0 with us and doesn't do anything for the next 90 days. From somebody who bought our product, didn't do anything for 90 days and didn't get value from our product yet. That same moment, that same trigger could mean enormously different things for different customers on our journey. So I think that the DIYers should take comfort in like adding some kind of hygiene routine into their business. And I think that the pros can think about, oh, if I can get, a product, a service, whether it's the core CRM or a third-party product, to apply a tag when something happens or when something doesn't happen, what could I really do to make this better or worse for my customer as a result of doing that? Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We even have some pros that are, and we built this into the tool recently, into the List Defender, is they are looking at new opt-ins, new subscribers. Let's just call them new subscribers, opt-ins to a content piece or whatever. We're looking at them differently in terms of engagement than the rest of the list. So brand new subscriber, they opt in. We're watching them daily. And if they don't engage at all within X number of days, then tag them to trigger either deleting the contact or reach out to them in a different way or something. Because do you really want somebody on your list who has opted in and hasn't opened or clicked or anything within the first 30 days?
Right.
No.
Yeah. Like they don't do anything for the first 30 days, and then they don't do anything for the next 180 days. And then you suggest that maybe they're primed for deletion, and somebody who's proud of their list size says, no, what if?
Yes.
Like if they didn't download the free thing that you offered, they're not going to suddenly pull out an Amex card and spend your minimum purchase, right?
No.
Like,
and it's damaging
there's
your
not a
reputation
lot of glory to having them in there. So, and something you just said about like, and again, I've been using List Defender for a month and a half now, and I've used other products as well. Like I've certainly been involved in how, proactive list management works. You're talking about that like new lead hitting, and you said we're watching them closely. Well, if List Defender has many hundreds of accounts with many tens of thousands of users or contact records, you're not literally watching them, but I presume like you're saying if it's 1 day old with no activity, it gets a certain, tag or field value. If they're 2 days old with zero activity, it gets a certain value, right? So programmatically, we can put them into those buckets.
That's right.
Right? Or track some kind of insight based on, that thing that we were really proud of actually didn't generate, a second interaction or a first interaction, right? So it's
too hard. It's too hard for a marketer to keep track of, are my people engaging? Is my list clean? Is are new subscribers doing what they're supposed to do? Like it's hard to allocate time and resources to be able to manage that and keep track of it. So yeah, we've built systems and process to do that. And now might be a good segue to like give the genesis story.
I think that sometimes when people think about adding more product to their tech stack or adding more complexity or putting that task every, the end of every month to do some list hygiene, you wonder who it's for, right? Like, I was playing golf last night with a realtor who's a solo practitioner who uses Follow Up Boss and has, perhaps hundreds, right? For his business, a 500,000 person list is valuable, right? Versus maybe a dentist office or a local service business with 15,000 contacts versus a YouTube influencer with 150 or like a big brand with 1 million plus. Is the strategy similar? Is it like, is this a much attention only worth it to certain types of businesses? I know the loaded answer would be, yes, it's important to everybody, but like, what's the true answer in terms of like when this is worth the juice is worth the squeeze?
Yeah. The true answer is, if it's important to you to be able to send emails and get them actually delivered, then you have to not only be aware of, but also do things to maintain your list, to protect your list. That's the bottom line. Like, you can't get away from it. So whether you've got a list of 150 people on it or 150,000 people or 1.5 million people, you're dealing with the same issues around reputation and deliverability. And so I've personally talked to businesses that are, have a couple hundred contacts on their list. And guess what? Their forms are getting absolutely hammered by bots, fake opt-ins with real emails, and their autoresponders go to these real emails of somebody that a bot opted them in. Mm-hmm. And what do? They immediately mark it as spam. And so you've got a very small business, like solo practitioner, who is a local business doing their thing. And all of a sudden their email provider is telling them, hey, like, you've gotten your spam complaint rate has skyrocketed. What are you doing? We're going to shut you down.
3 out of 100 is 30%. It's 3%.
Yeah. So that person, like part of their business, their ability to email to their list and to their customers is now shot.
And obviously, on the other hand, if you're like a retail chain with 10 locations and you've got 2 million contacts, or you're a serious influencer with 1 million contacts, then it only gets like exponentially more complicated to manage, and therefore
it's exponentially more complicated. And I've worked personally with another customer who I don't know what the revenues are, but they are a significant organization. They're not a solopreneur. Significant organization. Their list size is close to 500,000 contacts. And because of problems with their forms being attacked and no recourse, they had to shut off all marketing, pull down all of their opt-in forms, and they were stuck in limbo for months. Like, can you imagine how damaging that would be for any business to have to stop paid and active marketing because you had to pull all of your opt-in forms down, all of your content pieces and your lead magnets gone?
I do like that kind of, it was way back in the beginning of the session, you were talking about that, your agency proves real world needs, and then your software company needs to solve for those, which I think a lot of software companies don't get to see that kind of genesis, that origin of a new product. So I would love to see List Defender, and I'd love maybe not like MonkeyPod's live data, but like you could maybe speak hypothetically to like what's probably happened to our list over the last, say, 90 days that we've been using List Defender. So I'm going to go off screen. If you see me come back on, it's probably because there's a question or something that's come up in the
cool.
chat. But I'm going to give you the stage, and if you need me back, just let me know.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll share my screen. We'll do a little show and tell time here. And I want to give people a visual for where List Defender sits in the world, and kind of a quick genesis story. with our PlusThis business, we've been involved in email validation and things like that for many, many, many years. Email engagement. We have a email engagement trigger tool. But it wasn't until early last year that we got the nastygram from our email provider saying, hey, you've had too many complaints, too many bounces, too many whatever. You need to do a list cleaning. And we're very careful with our list. Like, we're not heavy promo. We don't email a ton. We're not emailing daily or anything like that. But we still got the nastygram, like the threat to shut us down. And so we went through the process of getting a list cleaning, a one-time list cleaning. It was probably just under $1,000, maybe around $1,000. To make a long story short, that process of us, who are technical people, going through a list cleaning was arduous and confusing and frustrating. And it was a one-time clean. We had to deal with re-uploading the list and deduping and tagging, and we screwed up our own tagging. And that caused another nastygram to come to us about a month later. Like, it was an absolute disaster. And so we started to investigate, because that was a component that we weren't deeply involved in, was this list cleaning, nor form protection. And at about the same time, we started to get attacked by a bot that was filling out our form and injecting fake contact data with real emails that were scraped from the internet. And they do it for a certain reason. I'm not going to take time to explain exactly why, but it's for financial reasons they do it. All this experience that we were going through, we're like, this sucks. It is way too difficult. We're technical. What is this process and experience like for a marketer or for an ops person or a business owner, a solopreneur? Like, there's just no way. And seeing that email hygiene and protecting your list as an asset was going to be a growing concern, we're like, hey, there's an opportunity here to make it easy for entrepreneurs to clean their list and do it in a way where it's just handled. Like, you connect your email marketing platform, and in this case, we connect to Keap and GHL at this time. We'll be adding more in the future. And just make it so that it's plug and play. Like, you don't have to worry about it as an entrepreneur. Like, it's going to watch my list for me. It's going to clean it 24/7. It's going to protect all my forms. It's going to monitor my engagement. It's going to tag everybody for me. And so that's what we built. That was the genesis of List Defender. And I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm on a homepage here. I'm in List Defender. It's connected to a Keap app in this case. And I can see that my list size is about 10,000. I've got almost 2,800 that are green that I can send to no issues whatsoever. 852 are at some level of approaching unengagement, and I need to start doing re-engagement efforts. And then the reds, I'm just not going to send to them because they are either fake, they are suspect, they are just not worth sending to. I'm going to damage my reputation and my deliverability if I send to those people. So I'm going to avoid red. On this dashboard, it's also checking out new subscribers. So all contacts that are added to my database, it's doing a scan, regardless of whether it comes in through forms, imports, manual entry, API, whatever, it's going to scan them. As you can tell, this particular database, there are some issues. Do you see that? Over 1,000 subscribers, new subscribers in the past 30 days, only 30 are green. The rest are red. So there's something going on. We'll dive into that in a minute. And then specifically on my form protection, I've got some issues going on here too. Like, you can see below that 40 on my enhanced submissions, only one has been allowed. 39 have been blocked. So lots of stuff going on here that we can tear apart. But I want to show you the details of each list scan. So my last big bulk scan was on July 10th. It scanned over 10,000 contacts and it marked those. So I can see it keeps history of how my email list is performing from a hygiene engagement perspective. And so in this case, I've had a little bit of a drop in who's green and an increase in who's red. So it's finding garbage and moving him into my red bucket, let's call it. And then my unengaged has actually dropped. So I'm getting better at getting my list that is approaching unengaged or unengaged, moving them to more green, or they're moving to red because they're fully unengaged. And the system just does this for me. If I go into the details of one of these, so this last big scan on July 10th, and there are a number of scans that List Defender does, both every month, every week, every day in some cases. It'll keep track of different batches of contacts that are suspect or are non-deliverable right now, but just temporarily. So there are dozens of scans that happen. But this gives me the results of this last scan where I can see the breakdown that we saw on that dashboard. And then details. Unlike many list cleaning services that operate in a black box, we present all the data. So here's all of the engagement data where people break down. People that are tagged as red, why? Well, 555 of the 6,400 failed the valid email check. Well, what valid email check? Well, 97 have DNS record issues. 112 have MX record problems, so you can't even send to them. Email invalid mail server. 259, the bulk of them, address doesn't even exist. And then 70, the email inbox is full. That's one bucket that we scan regularly because sometimes an inbox is full or temporarily unavailable. So we want to keep checking those often and move them to a green status once they become deliverable. Quality, we're also doing dozens of checks on quality, disposables, vulgar terms, suspicious terms. And then we've got new contacts and form defense. So this is the latest big monthly scan that was done. These are the results. And I can go back and look at history and check every one of those. If I look at my form protection, because as you saw in that Venn diagram, we do list cleaning, we do engagement tracking, and we do form protection. So here on my opt-in form, and let me show you just, I won't show it. On an opt-in form, everybody knows what an opt-in form is, like for a content piece, lead magnet, whatever it is. I can have my forms protected, and as they're filling out the form, it is validating and checking to see if it's real. And you can see that bot was detected on this one. Here's a test that I did on this one here. Dave, back on July 9th, Dave test 1 at Gmail. That it does not exist. So it doesn't allow the form to be filled out or submitted. It also does typo checks of domains, known domains, and things like that. So it helps keep your list clean on an ongoing basis as new subscribers come into your list, as well as continually scans the entire list. If I go into this enhanced mode, so back on my dashboard, let me flip back here. I showed that in enhanced mode, I only had one submission out of 40, 39 were blocked. Well, that's kind of suspect. So let's look at the actual and come in here in enhanced mode. And this is a very common problem. Probably within the past year, this has been a growing issue across the email marketing world where these bots are, here's a perfect example, 2 through the rest of them actually, where a bot is injecting this crazy gobbledygook name field and a real email. And what they're doing is very programmatically, these bots are bypassing the form controls. So CAPTCHA, Cloudflare, honeypot fields that you might have added. It's bypassing all of that and going to the source code and using that to just inject the contacts into your database through the form. And we can identify that and see that, oh, these are highly, highly suspect. We identify them as a bot. And in this case, I've set it up so that it just deletes the contact before they start getting the autoresponders. So I'm actively, programmatically protecting against bots and bad actors that are trying to fill my database with junk contacts and real emails. And what they're doing is they're trying to exploit these people and get into their financial accounts and get money out of them. So they're opting them into hundreds of opt-ins or even thousands of opt-ins to bury the password reset and things like that. So crazy stuff going on. So
it sounds like some of the strategy, like some of it is about it's like putting a filter before it even flows into the business, and then also monitoring their behavior over time. Right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Some contacts are never going to get into the CRM or email marketing platform, and then other ones are going to get in because maybe they were genuine at the moment that they went in, but then became for whatever reason not worth sending or not valid to send to because of those monthly scans.
Correct.
Kind of as you go. I'm curious in the monthly scan stuff, and suppose this as well. What if somebody was a more advanced user and they were skeptical? They were like, you know what, I did go to a real live trade show.
Yeah.
And I did meet some real live people.
Yes.
And List Defender is telling me that a bunch were invalid. Like data's not lost, right? Like there would be a means to go in and say, you know what, Keap or High Level, we put a suppression tag on them, but I, as the real human, want to take that suppression tag back off as an example. Can you kind of speak to like, yeah, let's get the programmatic method dealing with our, tens of thousands of submissions, and then letting the human expert either find meaning and verification. Because that's the thing too, is that like the List Defender might be working perfectly, but if my client in my agency comes to me and says, what the hell do you mean? Prove it, right? Even if it's right, I still have to prove it, right? Could you just kind of speak to like what an investigation would look like if you saw something that you really weren't happy with going on in your List Defender?
Yeah. Yeah. So here's a great case. That's excellent question. So we provide all of the data within List Defender. So if you want to drill down on batches of segments of your list, if I want to see everybody that was tagged as read and they're suspicious, or it's a role email or a tag or disposable, or it's a free email, I want to see everybody on my list that has a free email account. Boom, it gives it to you. I can also tag that in my email marketing system so that when my provider says, hey, we're having problems delivering to Gmail right now, you can exclude all Gmail accounts on your email broadcast, like within seconds, like super valuable. But I can do searches and stuff. Like here's one that I did a search on. People that are tagged as read, they're still opted in, and they're marked as vulgar term. Well, this guy, like Matt Fagioli, like it's detecting that there's an inappropriate term. And you might say, oh, well, this is a real person. This is an Italian guy, and he's a real client. He's a paying client, but our system marked it as red. Then all you do is you come in here and always mark the contact as green. Boom, he's green forever. So there are overrides in those cases.
Did it know it was opted in because it knows via Keap? Like this is bidirectional. It's not just filtering and then sending it. It's bidirectionally knowing that, this is what represents an opted in or a deliverable marketable client inside of Keap or High Level or whatever platforms you end up integrating with. It's bidirectionally knowing that.
That's cool. Exactly right. Yep. We're constantly going through APIs to the email platform to check engagement data, to check opt-in, opt-out status. We're bringing that back in and doing
so
that.
If a new user had regret, sometimes when you use Keap or whatever, and you with the best of intentions have the 60-day list hygiene mechanism set natively inside of that platform, and then they get opted out, and you're like, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Of course, those people were 60 days unengaged because they were from my, Canadian Thanksgiving sale, and I want to use them on Boxing Day and more of the days have passed or whatever, again, kind of bespoke. The intelligence of that situation happens. You're barring some workarounds or some manual labor. That platform is trying to protect you from itself and keeping those people opted out. Here, you could say, that setting. I bought List Defender yesterday. I ran it overnight. and I had my settings just a little too aggressive.
Yes.
You kind of get to rework. Say, well, what would happen if I ran my next search a little less aggressive, my next scan a little less aggressive? Is that, I imagine that the fear people have is like, I'm going to put my first 100,000 contacts through List Defender, and List Defender is going to tell me that 99,000 are invalid, right? And I wish I had my settings different. Can you just speak to that kind of
absolutely.
risk of first use?
There are certain scans that List Defender will do to protect you, and those scans are all around: is this a real email? Is it a real email? Is it deliverable? Is the domain structure correct? Does the box exist? Is it deliverable? It's going to do those kind of checks no matter what. However, we give the customer of List Defender ability to dial up or down how strict you want to be around some of the validation. So like here in the settings area, for all you techno nerds who I absolutely love, you can control that. So it's going to do the validity checks no matter what. The quality checks you have control over. So like I can exclude or include any of these: disposable email addresses, vulgar terms, suspicious, domain roles, tags. And if you're not sure of what they mean, you can just hover over the question like, oh, a tag means email plus tag at gmail.com. That's a tag email. Like if you want to exclude those, I can, if I'm hardcore B2B and do not want free emails on my list or allowed in my forms, then I would check that, and that would identify and tag as read any contact in my database that has a free email provider. And then also on my form protection, I would want to check that box also, so that as people are trying to opt into my form, it would exclude those. So yeah, lots of controls around.
And because it's bidirectional, I appreciate everybody who's still with us. I appreciate that you're still with us here, Dave, too. I'm so fascinated. But if you have to leave, let me know. Because it's bidirectional, like you're showing us what's happening inside of the List Defender interface right now. Mm-hmm. But because this am I right to assume that it's also applying tags that represent this, and maybe like a more novice user might have a more novice set of tags, and a more advanced user might have a more advanced set of tags. And the reason for that question is that, from the marketing user's perspective, you could potentially either trigger an automation mm-hmm. based on what's happened over there, or if you're, copywriting email marketing friend in the office doesn't need this interface, I suppose we could use what this does over in high level. We could create a smart list. Over in Keap, we could create a safe search, right? Correct. That's like based on what List Defender did, Keap can now put the people who meet that criteria into a particular safe search or in high level smart list. Is that a natural extension for virtually all users or advanced users? Yes,
for all users. So we hide advanced to keep it simple, but you can explode that. And so by default, we're going to tag all most customers need to worry about is the red, yellow, and green tags that get set on every contact in their marketing automation system, GHL, Keap, whatever they're using. So that they can suppress those from their broadcasts and things like that. If you want to go like hardcore advanced, then you would apply tags for validity and quality checks, and then create safe searches, like whatever you need to. Like, for example, I would want to know any paying customer that's tagged as red. That's a search. That's a something, a widget that I want on my dashboard, or something that would be an indicator. Like, we need to reach out to this client because they're not getting our emails. They're tagged as red. Like, they're not deliverable. And so that will tag, and here's a list of all the tags. Like, this particular account is connected to a Keap database. But these are all the tags that we set, and the ones to worry about are green, red, and yellow. But if I want, I can also tag every contact based on quality and their email provider, their validity checks, and do all kinds of searches and sorting and stuff like that in your email marketing system.
Absolutely. This is probably way too nerdy for a webinar, but what's really interesting about the provider, and maybe you can tell me if I'm over projecting what it ought to do, at our agency, and I work at MonkeyPod. I also work at a full service implementation agency, and we have more than one client that sells to institutions, right? Where like teachers, for example, right? 70% of their database might be teachers with Gmail and Hotmail accounts, but 30% might be state government officials, or school district officials and things like that. And who knows what these people are doing, right? They've got Microsoft Exchange 2003 with some Barracuda, with some whatever, right?
Yes.
And if that state government, or maybe you sell to law enforcement, maybe you sell to, I just am coming up with a teacher example because it's on my mind. Those trends could be really helpful as well to say, you know what? Our stakeholders who have purchased with Gmail accounts are seemingly enjoying their products, but those at the, edu.state.gov email addresses are not seeming to get a whole lot of value out of what we're selling them, right? And again, this platform, I don't imagine is just going to like emerge that insight for you.
Yeah.
But if you really value those stakeholders, is it going to give you the tags and the reports and the kind of ammunition you need to start that investigation, right? Or to get to the bottom of that investigation after a human decides it's worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be helpful in that process of discovery around, what segments of your list are actually engaging. Are there certain email types? And maybe they'll find that those government servers are actually blocking all my emails that I'm sending.
Right.
Like
maybe I need to go and do a totally different setting. Maybe I need to, divert that traffic through something else. So there's a question that's just come into the chat, and then we could do this. We could do an advanced session, I'm sure. So I just want to kind of bottom line the list defender part, and then I want to deal with the question in the chat, and then do a little tiny bit of housekeeping. This platform, this product, you sell it based on the number of contacts that are being scrubbed through the database, right? So a person with 1,000 person list is going to pay a different amount than somebody with a 200,000 person list. And I don't think you're selling it in pieces, right? You're not selling the form protection separate from the list cleaning, separate from the, if you want to plug this into your CRM, it means that you kind of get the whole toolbox all at once. So I guess it's actually the PlusThis business model too, right? There's 100 tools. Yeah. Whether you get value from 1 or 10, you're paying the same, right? Correct. So you are inviting people to plug this into, what did you say? Keap and high level today.
Keap and high level today, but we'll be adding everything.
Everything.
Active Campaign. We'll do HubSpot. We'll add even the hardcore email marketing platforms, Constant Contact and Aweber.
Right. And I will share, I have so many items up over here. Is it this one? We are going to start grouping any content that we make. If we do a blog post about List Defender, this webinar replay, those types of things are all going to be on a dedicated page on the MonkeyPod website.
Perfect.
So if people want to kind of explore this, I'm going to include this link in the follow-up email and the show notes to this replay, because everything that we create, even if we break down this into smaller pieces to teach individual pieces, they're all going to be embedded directly into that page. So we'd encourage people to check it out, plug it in. And I know my biggest apprehension when we used it with a client and also when we used it with MonkeyPod is like, I'm going to let this thing run and then it's going to be beyond my control. And I think that I personally take a lot of comfort in saying, oh, I set it too aggressive, I can run the scan again. I sense it not aggressive enough, I can run the scan again. And kind of apply those kind of changes as we go through it. So Paul asked a question, and I'm going to ask the extended version of this question. Paul's question was, doesn't GHL show some of this information in campaign reports? So that's the base of the question. And then the expanded version of the question is, why do you or any other one of these platforms, like even the ones that sell specific products in your Venn diagram over there, why can't we expect Keap, High Level, MailChimp, Constant Contact, ConvertKit, or Kit? Like, why can't we just expect them to do this stuff?
Yeah.
Why have they let us down? Is this only for advanced marketers? So the question number one, let's answer Paul directly. Doesn't GHL show some of this information? And then expanding upon that, these are not insignificant or unsubstantial businesses that are doing email marketing. So can you just help us understand that landscape a little bit?
Yeah,
Maybe this is political or your opinion, but I'm still fascinated.
yeah, no, it's a great question, Paul, and really, it comes down to what we each do best. Like, what is our core competency? And Keap, High Level, Active Campaign, MailChimp, all these organizations, all these solutions do something really well. And then they try to do other parts and they end up being not so great. And form protection, list hygiene, engagement. I mean, they do have some pretty decent engagement stuff, but they're only going to do the very, very basic level of form protection, validation, that kind of stuff. They're not going to go deep. They're just going to do the a very superficial pass. Like, so that's not good enough. It's not good enough. And will they in the future improve it? I don't know. In my 13 years of building tools for these platforms and making them better, these micro solutions that go deep, they still have not built things to be on par or even near. So I think it's an issue for all email marketers. I think like there's one provider that has protection on their forms, CAPTCHA, that don't work. It's not working, and it hasn't for many, many, many months, possibly years, we think. So they're just components on top of their core competency that they're just trying to do a brush stroke level of okay, we covered that, check it off. We're protecting our customers by having form protection in place. When the truth is, like, the bots and things nowadays are way more advanced and they're getting past those form protections. Like, you need something that goes deep and hard to protect you guys. Like, it comes down to email deliverability and reputation. And if you don't have something that goes deep and hopefully is automated and takes the workload off of you as the marketer, then we're all going to be in a world of hurt. There is some stuff in place. Will it get better? Maybe, but it'll never be deep enough. It'll never be good enough based on what we're seeing happening in the email marketing world today.
Dave, thank you for sharing all of this. I think, other than going a little tiny bit over time, I think we nailed the promise of, like, let's talk about why this is a problem generally for everybody, regardless of what email, hygiene product you use, and then having you show us List Defender, I think is very, very cool as well. And the truth is, in the 90 days or whatever I've been using it, I have not clicked all of those little accordion arrows that you just clicked that shows, okay, well, why were so many of these red? Why were so many yellow? What decision was made on a row by row basis? And that's a really big takeaway for me when I said, like, show me what's happening under the hood. I think you showed me that I can see what's happening under the hood if I just go back into the platform and start expanding those accordions and let what was programmatically run on my list inform what my brain now can figure out about the good and bad and what to do next with my list. So this is the most rapid set of call to action and housekeeping I can do here. This page right here on the MonkeyPod website is going to have, in a moment, it'll have this replay and any other content that we create with you about this product. So if people are looking for tutorials from the MonkeyPod team, that's where you're going to find it. It'll look like this once the replay is up there. You'll see it down linked in the lower portion here. Any closing thoughts, closing notes?
No, just appreciate being on the call here with you, Cameron, with MonkeyPod community. And let me know how I can help. I guess people can reach me, Dave@PlusThis.com, if you have questions or need advice or just want to chat.
Perfect. Thanks so much for your time, your expertise, and showing us what you've got. These are always, and being nerdy, it's always fun to get into some details here. So thanks for that, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.